Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that everything you trusted about money was a lie. Your savings, your paycheck, the promise of security, it's all gone, vanished. Sounds like a nightmare, right? But this is exactly what history keeps showing us. Empires have risen and fallen. Governments have made solemn promises. And yet, time and again, people wake up to the harsh reality. Their money is worthless. Their futures stolen by systems they believed were solid. From the Romans to the French Revolution, from the American Confederacy to modern-day Lebanon, the pattern repeats. Collapses are not rare accidents. Collapses are the rule. The real question isn't if financial systems fail. It's how you protect yourself when they do. Money is not a foundation. Money is trust. And trust can disappear overnight. That's the brutal truth the history books try to teach us. Every collapse leaves a trail. Lessons, patterns, and warnings about what actually preserves wealth and what turns to dust. Those who survive these disasters are never the ones who trusted blindly. They are the ones who doubted first. So, let me ask you, if everything around your money suddenly crumbled, would you know what to do? Or would you be left holding pieces of paper while the real value slipped through your fingers? Let's travel back 1,000 years to the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. Imagine a world where trade flourished across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. The backbone of this empire? A single coin, the gold solidus. For centuries, the solidus was trusted everywhere. Merchants accepted it without question. It was reliable, stable, almost like a global currency of its time. But here's the twist. The Byzantines made a mistake that history has repeated again and again. They began to dilute their gold, mixing it with cheaper metals. At first, no one noticed, but eventually, trust crumbled. The coin that had held an empire together became a political fiction. The economy collapsed along with it. Traders lost faith, commerce stalled, and wealth evaporated. So, what survived? Not promises, not laws, not government orders. The people who came out ahead were those who held real value: gold, land, and assets beyond the reach of political manipulation. The lesson is clear. Governments will always face the temptation to manipulate money. When they do, real value flees. Those who anticipate the fragility of financial systems and act before trust breaks are the ones who survive. Think about it. How often do we assume that paper or digital balances in our accounts are unshakable? How often do we forget that history is filled with lessons like Byzantium, lessons we can use today? Trust is fragile. Real wealth is not. And the moment you realize the difference, you gain an edge that most people never see coming. Now, let's step into one of history's deadliest pandemics, the Black Death of the 14th century. Between 1347 and 1351, nearly half of Europe's population vanished. Entire towns emptied, villages disappeared, trade routes collapsed. It was a disaster unlike anything people had experienced. But here's the paradox. Scarcity created opportunity. With so many workers gone, labor became incredibly valuable. Survivors could demand higher wages. Land and food, once scarce, suddenly became more abundant relative to the population. Families with silver, goods, or simply the ability to work found themselves with unprecedented influence and wealth. Fast forward to today. Does this sound familiar? During the COVID-19 pandemic, global supply chains faltered. Governments printed trillions to keep the system running. Markets surged for those with liquidity, while millions struggled to pay rent or buy essentials. The lesson is brutal but consistent. Crises redistribute wealth. Those with reserves thrive. Those without suffer. History doesn't care about fairness. It rewards preparedness. Survivors of the Black Death climbed the social ladder. Survivors of COVID who had assets bought homes, stocks, and businesses others could no longer hold. The pattern repeats. Scarcity and disruption always favor the resourceful, the prepared, and the skeptical. Are you ready to recognize opportunity when the next crisis hits? Imagine Florence in the 1340s, a thriving financial capital of Europe. Wealthy banking families like the Bardi and the Peruzzi held enormous power, lending to kings and funding wars. It seemed untouchable, almost invincible. But then reality struck. King Edward III of England defaulted on massive loans during his wars with France. Suddenly, these giant banks collapsed. Savings were wiped out, trade ground to a halt. Florence, once prosperous and powerful, plunged into chaos. The lesson? Too big to fail is a myth as old as banking itself. Institutions exist to make profit, not to guarantee your security. When they fall, they drag their depositors down with them. Modern history echoes the same truth. Lehman Brothers in 2008, regional bank failures in the US. Different centuries, same lesson. Trust in large institutions is fragile. What survived these collapses? Those who didn't rely solely on paper promises. People who held real assets, who diversified, who anticipated the cracks in the system, survived and often prospered. So, think for a moment. Do you trust your bank blindly? Or are you aware that history has already shown how quickly even the mightiest institutions can crumble? Florence teaches us that size, reputation, or influence are not shields. They are illusions. And understanding this difference between trust and tangible value is what separates those who survive from those who fall. War doesn't just destroy cities and lives. It can destroy money itself. Take the American Civil War, for example. Both the Union and the Confederacy needed massive funds to keep their armies moving. The solution? Printing money. In the North, the government issued greenbacks, paper currency backed not by gold, but by the promise of the United States. At first, it seemed bold, even patriotic. But as more money flooded the economy, its value dropped. Inflation ate away at wages, and trust in the currency weakened. In the South, the situation was far worse. The Confederacy printed graybacks in staggering quantities. By the end of the war, prices had skyrocketed thousands of %. Soldiers' paychecks were worthless before they could even spend them. Families carried sacks of cash to buy a single loaf of bread. And it wasn't just the Civil War. France in the 1790s offers another stark lesson. Revolutionaries overthrew the monarchy and issued the assignats, paper money supposedly backed by confiscated lands. But the government printed more and more, diluting the value. Prices soared. Wages couldn't keep up. Assignats became worthless. Bread riots erupted, and the revolution consumed itself. So, who survived these collapses? Not the ones holding paper, not the ones trusting government promises. It was those holding real, tangible value. Land, food, gold. Assets that governments couldn't simply print. Here's the brutal truth. Wars and revolutions destroy money faster than most people can react. If your wealth isn't real, it can vanish in an instant. Are you prepared for that reality? Let's zoom out to the global stage. History doesn't just repeat itself locally, it echoes worldwide. Take Asia in 1997. What started as a speculative attack on the Thai baht quickly spiraled into a regional financial crisis. Thailand had borrowed heavily in US dollars, assuming their currency peg was safe. When the baht collapsed, debt in foreign currency became impossible to repay overnight. Investors fled, economies shrank, unemployment skyrocketed. Governments begged the International Monetary Fund for rescue. The real victims? Ordinary citizens. Their savings lost value, mortgages doubled, jobs disappeared. Meanwhile, global hedge funds profited from the chaos. Fast forward to Lebanon, between 2019 and 2021. Banks shut their doors. Withdrawals were limited. The Lebanese pound lost over 90% of its value. Middle-class families, retirees, doctors, and engineers, all were devastated. The pattern is painfully familiar. Those holding assets abroad, in gold or other real value, survived better than those fully invested in local currency. Debt in foreign money is a trap. When the storm hits, the debtor sinks, not the lender. Even in today's developed economies, the same lessons apply. 2008, 2020, 2023. Bank failures, currency shocks, printed trillions. History shows that trust in institutions alone is never enough. The message is clear. Diversify, hold real assets, and understand that crises are global. If you wait for a bailout, history tells you it might never come. So far, we've seen empires fall, currencies collapse, and entire economies thrown into chaos. But what separates those who survive, and even thrive, from those who are left ruined? The answer isn't complicated. It's real assets and real skills. Look at history. After the Black Death, it wasn't the people with empty pockets who prospered. It was the survivors with land, silver, or the ability to work. During wars, it was those with tangible goods, food, property, tools, who maintained their wealth. Even today, crises reward the resourceful, those with cash, investments in stable assets, or the skills to create value when others cannot. Think of it this way: a baker who can make bread, a farmer who can grow it, a tradesman who can repair tools. These people survive because society will always need what they offer. Money may vanish, but essential skills and real-world value never do. This is the deeper form of protection: tangible assets, gold, land, real estate, tools. Liquidity, cash or resources ready to deploy. Skills and productivity, the ability to generate value even during chaos. Crises are transfers, from the many who trusted blindly to the few who acted wisely, from paper promises to real wealth, from passive savers to active creators. Are you prepared to be in the second group? By combining these elements, you don't just protect yourself, you position yourself to seize opportunities others will abandon under pressure. History shows this over and over. The survivors aren't luckier, they're smarter, prepared, and adaptable. History has shown us one undeniable truth: collapses are inevitable. Empires fall, banks fail, currencies vanish. Yet those who understand the patterns, prepare, and act wisely survive, and often thrive. From Byzantium to Florence, from the American Civil War to modern Lebanon, the lessons are consistent. Paper promises are fragile. Trust in institutions can vanish overnight. Real wealth, tangible assets, liquidity, and productive skills endures. Crises are both a tragedy and an opportunity. For the unprepared, they bring ruin. For the prepared, they are a chance to acquire what others abandon, to secure wealth, and to create value when it matters most. Ask yourself, when the next collapse comes, will you be among the many left with nothing, or among the few ready to protect and grow your wealth? The patterns are clear. The rules are simple, yet most ignore them. History doesn't need to repeat itself. It already has, and it will again. The only question is, will you learn, or will you wait until it's too late? If this opened your eyes, if you want to understand how to protect your wealth, recognize opportunities, and navigate financial storms, subscribe now. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.